Welcome to today's explainer. You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a blinking cursor on a stark white screen, and you feel that rising tide of panic because a deadline is looming. Well, if you've been there, you are entirely not alone. That feeling, blank page syndrome, is a totally universal anxiety. But what if I told you that staring at a blank page to start a report is actually the absolute worst way to write one? Today, we're going to cure that cognitive overload. We're going to completely transform the way you approach academic and professional reports by swapping out sheer willpower for a reliable, structured blueprint.
I absolutely love this quote from Petalin because it totally shifts our mindset. So often, we view writing as this nebulous, magical art form, like we're just sitting around waiting for lightning to strike. But the reality? It's far more practical. Writing, especially academic and professional report writing, is a structured, repeatable construction project. Think about it. You wouldn't build a house by just buying a bunch of bricks and tossing them wildly into a pile. You need a process.
All right, let's dive into our blueprint for today. First, we'll cure the blank page. Then we'll move into phase 1, laying foundation. After that is phase 2, erecting the frame. And finally, phase 3, final inspection.
So, part 1, curing the blank page. The architect's blueprint.
The biggest takeaway here is that great reports are not magically written. They're deliberately built. We cure the blank page by dividing the work into 3 distinct temporal phases. Doing this completely eliminates cognitive overload and writer's block. Think about the structure. We have phase 1 for foundation, which is strictly pre-writing, phase 2 for framing, which is when you're actually writing, and phase 3 for finishing, the post-writing stage. The trick is, when you sit down to draft in phase 2, you shouldn't be researching. And when you research in phase 1, you definitely shouldn't be worrying about perfect sentence structure. Focus on the specific process of the phase you're in, and the product will inevitably follow.
Moving right into phase 1, laying foundation. This is all about pre-writing and organizational strategy.
To pour a rock-solid foundation, you obviously need high-quality materials. This is where the active reading filter comes in. As you gather sources, you need to screen them through 4 crucial checks. First, credibility. Are you assessing the author's actual expertise? Second, relevance. Does this specific piece of data actually answer your report's central questions? Third, objectivity. Can you spot any underlying bias or commercial intent? And fourth, context. Do you understand exactly where this data fits into the broader field? By using this filter, you ensure that only structurally sound evidence makes it to your drafting board. No weak bricks allowed in our house, right? Now, you know the biggest mistake novice writers make? It's listing sources sequentially, saying source A said this, then source B said this, and source C said this. Honestly, that's just a book report. Instead, you want to use a synthesis matrix. You group your research by argument or theme, things like clarity, structure, or tone, to discover your synthesized voice. You're looking for the intersections between the authors, not just summarizing them in a vacuum. Think about the absolute contrast here. On one hand, you have the chaotic, sticky note mess of serial summarizing. It's totally overwhelming. But on the other hand, you have this beautifully built wall of a synthesized voice. A well-built synthesis matrix doesn't just organize your notes, it literally generates your original voice. Because you grouped everything by theme back in phase 1, the synthesized topic sentences for your paragraphs in phase 2 are effectively already written for you. You've literally already done the hardest part of the thinking. Which brings us to the ultimate preventative measure against writer's block, constructing the outline. And to be clear, this isn't some quick scribble on a napkin. This is the exact blueprint for our house. A meticulous outline maps out the core thesis, branches into the main sections, and drills all the way down to the individual paragraphs. This ensures balance, so every section gets the right depth, and continuity, so you can plan your narrative flow before you type a single word. If you build this blueprint, drafting just becomes a matter of filling in the blanks.
Okay, phase 2, erecting the frame. This is where we get into drafting and translating your research into a narrative.
Now comes the really exciting part. We can actually break the intimidating act of drafting a paragraph down into a simple, highly reliable equation. Defining your key terms, plus explaining the complex data you found in your research, plus maintaining your overarching authorial voice equals a cohesive paragraph. It's literally an equation. And remember the golden rule here. Drafting is about exploration, not perfection. You're just getting the framing up right now. Don't worry about picking out the paint colors or polishing the doorknobs just yet. Just get the words on the page. As you draft those paragraphs, keep this vivid image in the back of your mind. Paragraphs and sentences, they cannot exist as isolated islands in your report. If your reader has to leap across a massive logic gap just to get from idea A to idea B, they're going to fall right down into that chasm and get completely lost. You need to build deliberate connections to get them safely across. So how do we build these bridges in practice? We use explicit signposts, simple bridge words like furthermore to add information, in contrast to show opposition, or consequently to demonstrate cause and effect. These tell your reader exactly how to step from one logical stone to the next, guiding them safely across the logical steps of your main theses.
While you're drafting and building those bridges, you're constantly going to face a choice, which we can map out on an evidence utilization matrix. Do I quote or do I paraphrase? Listen, strategic quoting should be rare. You only use a direct quote when the original phrasing is so uniquely powerful or carries such immense authoritative weight that changing it would ruin it. Overusing direct quotes seriously risks disrupting your authorial voice. It makes your report sound choppy, kind of like a ransom note patched together from different magazines. Paraphrasing, on the other hand, should be your default standard. Rewriting evidence in your own voice maintains a seamless narrative flow, and it proves to your reader that you actually comprehend a material.
Finally, Phase 3, Final Inspection. This is all about post-writing, polishing, and checking that structural integrity. At this stage, you are no longer the builder. You are the building inspector, hunting for structural flaws. And you do this using a dual approach called the two lenses of review. First, you pick up the telescope. This is your macro-level review for coherence. You're looking at the big picture. Does the overarching logic hold together? Did you actually answer the initial brief? Okay, once the macro checks out, you put down the telescope and you pick up the microscope. This is your micro-level review for cohesion. Now you're looking at the granular level, checking if individual sentences flow smoothly into one another. You absolutely have to do both, but you must do them separately to be effective. And now, here is absolutely the best trick in the book for your final polish. When you read your own work silently, you are trapped in an echo chamber. Because your brain already knows what you meant to say, it will actively deceive you. It's going to autocorrect missing words, fix subject-verb agreements on the fly, and smooth over awkward phrasing without you ever even noticing. You have to break that echo chamber.
The technique for this is unbelievably simple, but it is non-negotiable. Read your report out loud. Yes, literally speak the words into the empty room. By forcing your tongue to physically form the words and your ears to actually hear them, you bypass your brain's autocorrect feature. Your tongue will physically trip over awkward phrasing and clunky transitions. And look, when you stumble speaking it, that's precisely where your reader will stumble reading it. This is the only way to truly guarantee a polished final product.
So there you have it. We've walked through the 3 distinct phases. We've laid the foundation with active reading filters and synthesis matrices. We've erected the frame using drafting equations and bridge words, and we've completed our final inspection through the telescope, the microscope, and reading aloud. You are no longer staring at a blank page just hoping for inspiration. Now that you have the complete blueprint, I want to leave you with this question. Will your next report be merely written, or will it be masterfully built? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy building.